gone to a grocery store in Charlottesville or Albemarle County and forgotten your reusable bags? You may have been charged 5 cents per plastic bag. Tonight, 29 investigates how much has been collected from the bag tax and where all that money will go. Kagan Hughes has been digging into the story and joins us live in the newsroom with more. Hi, Kagan.
Hi, Casey. In January of 2023, both Charlottesville and Albemarle County set a 5-cent plastic bag tax. Now, with more than a year and a half since it was implemented, we wanted to see how much it's brought in.
So since it was implemented in January of 2023, it's brought in approximately $149,000.
I think we're going to end up at about 108,000 for FY24. It averages between $8,000 and $9,000 a month.
Albemarle County and Charlottesville both underestimated just how much money this tax would bring in.
We had nothing to work off of, and so I think our original guesstimate was about $40,000.
The state of Virginia enforces and administers the tax. The money goes to Richmond first. Todd Divers is Charlottesville's Commissioner of Revenue.
The taxes that they collected from customers, they send that money to the Department of Taxation in Richmond. And then a month later, the Department of Taxation sends checks.
Collected and spent. 29 News asked both the city and county how the money will be used. Charlottesville says they're still reviewing options. Albemarle County pointed to state guidelines.
So it has very specific uses that are defined at the state level. And so some of those things are education programs, litter abatement programs, environmental cleanup, and then there's also the distribution of reusable bags to recipients of SNAP or WIC.
Albemarle County wants to supplement its current programs, not create new ones.
We haven't implemented any of the other programs yet. And so they are currently, our facilities and environmental services are doing a lot of research on what is the best and most appropriate use of that revenue source.
When asked about the futures of the program, the county says the tax revenue should decrease as more people use reusable bags. The city says it's estimating more than $100,000 in fiscal year 2025. Live in the newsroom, Kagan Hughes, 29 News at 5.
Language has changed over the years. The problem has not.
The preference now is to refer to those unhoused or those experiencing homelessness.
And despite all of the money that's been spent to make things better, the ongoing crisis is as obvious as a walk any morning around Charlottesville's downtown mall.
People are sleeping in public places, and there's a lot of people doing that.
And with them come equal parts frustration and concern, sympathy too, and social media fed stories of rampant crime. Tonight, 29 investigates what's really going on and what can really be done to fix it. Here's Destiny Harris.
Telling people just to get up and leave is not a solution all unto itself.
City Manager Sam Sanders says helping those with no place to live is different than telling them to do it somewhere else.
They have nowhere to go, they'll go somewhere else, and then I'll get phone calls from people somewhere else saying, why are they here?
Sanders and Police Chief Michael Conscious both say the issue is far too complex for any quick or easy answer.
There are systems and processes that need to step up, to be quite honest, and start addressing some of the underlying issues.
Conscious says what his department can address and does are crimes associated with the larger problem.
So we are seeing a marked increase in disorderly conduct calls for service. Our hotspot for the area of the downtown mall, which we consider the central district, is where the Haven is.
From 2023 to 2024, CPD says it responded to 303 calls for service, 41 more than the year before. 29 investigates reached out to the city manager to see if anything is being done to help the unhoused. Shayla Washington is with the Blue Ridge Coalition. She says about 200 people who use its services are without a home each night.
I would say probably 90% of the people who are on that by name list of people experiencing homelessness are actually in Charlottesville.
She says she believes the downtown mall is where people are drawn to because of services like the transit center, social services, the Haven, and more.
I think because homelessness is so visible, that's an easy issue to target. But I think people who are unhoused are just having issues with finding housing.
With the lack of affordable housing in the city, 29 News asked the city manager about short-term assistance like a homeless shelter.
I think that's one of the big missing pieces. It alone is not a solution. It is not going to be a place where everyone will go all day long. That's not how it works. So ideally that just helps to address a part of a problem.
Charlottesville police say other factors may also play a part in some people feeling uncomfortable walking downtown.
Drug use in general across the city, and not only across the city, across the country, we are seeing a market increase in opioid or fentanyl use. And so last year we had 101 overdoses in the city. That's the highest in like 5 years.
With the use of drugs increasing, so does mental illness. Sanders says another way he and his team are working to help is finding resources for those struggling.
We find that if they're not experiencing serious mental health, then there is no real outlet for them, and I think that's a gap because some of the situations that have been reported to us are people that might not be in real crisis, but might be on the edge.
Until long-term solutions are created, the city says it's doing what it can to help visitors feel comfortable when out downtown.
We're looking at lighting, we're looking at safety and security measures that we can do just to help make people feel better. A presence on the mall for those that people can go to if they need help.
Right now, CPD says it has an anger team that includes a police officer, firefighter, and a clinician that responds to the downtown mall. However, Chief Contis says it does not have the resources to have an officer on the downtown mall full time.
And so we're having this conversation now about what is our appropriate staffing levels. In 2016, we had somewhere around 127 sworn. Today, our allocated strength is 111 sworn.
I think it's just important for everyone to understand that it takes some time to try to figure out how to manage situations that appear to be out of control.
Charlottesville and Albemarle County supervisors joining nonprofits today to celebrate the official beginning to a project that will change lives. Avery Davis is live in studio to show us how these groups are trying to permanently put roofs over heads.
Hey Steve, this project takes a different approach to solving homelessness in the area. Instead of sheltering unhoused individuals for a day, Vista 29 makes long-term renting affordable. And the data shows supportive housing like this really works.
That homelessness is a solvable problem. And today, I can tell you that Vista 29 gets us a heck of a lot closer to solving that problem in our community.
There's still going to be a number of people on the street. We cannot forget that there will be people on the street, and we have to continue to do our best to get a shelter over their head.
Supportive housing finally in the works here at Premier Circle.
It's a different experience for everyone. But we have a 96% success rate in residents not returning to homelessness, and supportive housing is considered evidence-based practice, best practice to end chronic homelessness.
Allison Bogdanovich is executive director of Support Works Housing, the nonprofit behind Vista 29. She says years of hard work brought them to this moment, and it's gratifying to know that soon this building will change lives.
Homelessness is solvable. It isn't this big problem that we always have to face. When we work together, we can achieve it.
22 partners pitched in to fund the conversion of this building from inn to permanent supportive housing. Charlottesville's city manager says he's proud the city is one of those contributors.
You cannot do it by yourself. You have to do it together. And I appreciate the chance to be able to bring the city into this conversation because we were not in it the way we should have been in it in the beginning.
Sanders says this is only the beginning, and both the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle Board of Supervisors say they're committed to more projects like this.
You have to take it one day at a time, even if it's 6 years, 7 years, or 8 years.
Homelessness is a complicated issue. It's an issue that we as a community have to own. We have to continue to do the great work.
Vista 29 is just one of the projects that will be completed at Premier Circle. Others are slated to start once this construction ends. They all target solving the area's housing problem long term. Live in the studio, Avery Davis, 29 News at 5.
Many commute from far away to work in a city they can't afford to call home. Tonight, 29 investigates that trend, and as Anahita Jafari shows us, the problem is easier to see than any solution. It's our top story at 5.
Good evening, Casey. Housing costs in Charlottesville are some of the most expensive in our part of the state. It's not Northern Virginia bad, but it's a particular challenge for our public service employees to live where they work.
We have less than 10% of people that live in the city. I do not live in the city. I can't afford to live in the city because cost of living is so expensive.
Rion Anthony is Charlottesville's Parks and Rec director. Not being able to live where you work is something that hits his staff hard.
They cannot afford to live in the city, so I have employees traveling from Waynesboro. I have an employee that comes from Buckingham.
The housing cost gap is big enough, far enough away to make it worthwhile, even with so many miles to commute.
Just think about that with the cost of gas. So they're spending a lot of money just on traveling just to come to work.
City Councilor Michael Payne agrees.
It's a huge issue across pretty much every department in the city.
City Hall has to try and balance salaries and taxes against rents and mortgages.
We hear regularly all the time from employees that either they can't afford to even rent in the city, or maybe they could afford to rent here, but they want to become a homeowner, and the only thing that they can afford is maybe not even in Albemarle County. It could even be in Fluvanna, Buckingham, and even further out.
Beth Chuck is with Charlottesville Schools. They're facing the same dilemma.
36% of our employees live in the city, and another 40 live in Albemarle County, and then the rest is kind of a mix beyond that.
Kyle Irvin works with the Charlottesville Police Department. He's another employee who does not live in the city.
It's an expensive city to live in, and like I said, the inventory is low, so if there were more options here in the city, of course, I would live here.
Some say commuting cops are a public safety concern. The department disagrees.
If something, an emergency happens and you need all hands on deck, do you think it would be more viable if officers lived in the city versus outside?
Regardless of where they live, we're still able to respond. We're still able to do our job.
According to MIT's living wage calculator, someone needs to earn $48,000 a year to afford to live in Charlottesville. For two people to support a family with one child, that number is $77,000. There are a lot of people working for the city who fall well short of those numbers.
Of course, the biggest thing is just our affordable housing investments overall, and that $10 million a year invested in affordable housing, as well as our zoning changes, which we hope make more affordable housing types throughout the city.
In other cities across the country, there are ways to help public service employees buy a house, but not in Charlottesville.
We've discussed for city employees specifically creating a program to help them gain assistance with becoming first-time homeowners.
We cannot recruit, number one, and we cannot retain staff. And one of the biggest hurdles is the pay that we're offering staff.
Problems identified, but not solved.
29 Investigates asked Michael Payne about any specific plans on council's schedule to fix the housing issue for city employees, something like the vouchers that are done in other places or special tax breaks. He says there is nothing pending. Live in the newsroom, Anahita Jafari, 29 News at 5.
Continuous gun violence around Charlottesville. The most recent shooting in the area of 12th Street and Rosser Avenue killed a man. It's the city's first homicide of the year. Kagan Hughes is live in the newsroom with our top story at 5. Kagan.
Police found 31-year-old Dwayne Brown dead in his car Tuesday night with multiple gunshot wounds. Neighbors say this murder is not only heartbreaking, but scary for those who live on these streets.
And get these guns off the street. Seriously, from what happened last night, please do it. Y'all doing what you can. Please do it. Please, for me. And not only for me, for my neighbors, the elderly.
The most recent shooting in Charlottesville did what so many have been warning about. Hit someone instead of something, and now one man is dead.
Once the officers arrived on the scene, they found the victim, 31-year-old Dwayne Brown, who had suffered multiple gunshot wounds and was actually deceased at the scene.
Brian Page with Buck Squad says Dwayne Brown was a father.
This guy that lost his life, left behind kids and a pregnant fiance, right? What happens to the child?
Diane Smith lives on the street where the murder happened. She says the gun violence is out of control.
I'm scared, ma'am. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared. I'm scared as I talk to you, because I shouldn't have been through what I went through yesterday.
The Buck Squad was on the scene on Tuesday right away. They were back on Wednesday talking to neighbors about how this tragedy is hitting too close to home.
Like this, you seen what this lady is suffering. This is nothing that's gonna go away today. This is gonna stay with her for the rest of her life. You know, and this is how everybody in the community feels.
Page says it's not a one-person fix to end the crimes, but needs more people to help.
We got elderly people out here, they scared, people scared to come out the house. How can people live like that? And nobody wants to do anything about it.
29 News asked if the shooting was connected to the shots fired call around 2 o'clock this morning on 14th Street near Sadler Street. CPD was not able to confirm if these incidents are related. Live in the newsroom, Kagan Hughes, 29 News at 5.
According to Albemarle County Police, gun violence related incidents are lower through the first 6 months of this year compared to last. From the start of the year to June 23rd, Albemarle County Police has had 104 gun violence incidents. This is down 19% from the same period in 2023. It's also down 10% from the county's 3-year average. Still, the department is constantly working to ensure these numbers continue to drop.
One thing we want to do is be proactive in our patrols and understand where these incidents are occurring at and pay some special attention to those communities so we can deter it. What we don't want to do is chase it around the county and push it from place to place.
And the data only accounts for what an incident is cleared as, not what it is called in as. This means if police are dispatched to a shots fired call and is determined to be hunting, that incident is excluded.